Pitcairn Island, a lone outpost in the Pacific, conjures images of turquoise waves and swaying palms. Yet beneath this idyllic facade lies a history of violence and resilience, where women have faced unimaginable cruelty to become the island's backbone. From the brutal days of 1793, when Tahitian women endured abuse and rose to protect their children, to the painful legacy of the 2004 scandal, these women have turned suffering into strength. Their story, often overshadowed by the island's infamy, reveals a quiet power that has sustained Pitcairn through centuries of tragedy. To understand the Tahitian women who shaped Pitcairn's early days, we must first step into their world. In 18th century Tahiti, women held complex roles within a matrilineal society, where lineage and land often passed through mothers. They were skilled navigators, farmers, and keepers of oral traditions, yet their status varied. Some were revered, others bound by rigid hierarchies. When European sailors arrived, many Tahitian women were drawn into relationships, sometimes willingly, sometimes coerced, as trade or survival tactics. Those who boarded the Bounty in 1789, destined for Pitcairn, carried this cultural resilience, but faced a new reality where their agency was stripped away. This context, drawn from historian Anne Salmon's The Trial of the Cannibal Dog, 2003, frames their actions in 1793 not as mere violence, but as a desperate assertion of maternal duty in a foreign, hostile world. In January 1790, 12 Tahitian women, 9 European sailors, and 6 Tahitian men landed on Pitcairn, fleeing the aftermath of the Bounty mutiny. The island's fertile slopes promised a fresh start, but the dream soured quickly. The women, taken from Tahiti as companions, were treated as commodities. Each sailor claimed a woman, while the Tahitian men, near slaves in the colony's hierarchy, shared just 3. This imbalance, documented in Peter Heywood's letters from the Bounty crew, ignited tensions that would erupt in bloodshed. The mice, women's lives were a grind of labor and fear. They planted crops, hauled water, and cooked under the relentless sun, but their suffering went beyond toil. The sailors, fueled by moonshine distilled by William McCoy, unleashed their worst impulses. Women were beaten for resisting, their bodies claimed without consent in drunken brawls. One woman, Tevarua, became a tragic symbol of this brutality. In 1793, McCoy, enraged by her failure to catch enough fish, bit off her ear in a savage act of punishment. The pain and humiliation drove Tevarua to a cliff's edge, where she leapt to her death, her story preserved in Pitcairn's oral traditions. Her suicide was a spark in a volatile mix. The abuse escalated, with women traded among sailors or punished for defiance. The Tahitian men, outraged by their own mistreatment and the violation of their wives, plotted revenge. On a grim day in 1793, they stole muskets and slaughtered 5 sailors, their axes painting the soil red. The island descended into chaos, but the women refused to be pawns. That night, driven by the need to protect their children, they made a harrowing choice. In darkness, they killed the Tahitian men, ending the massacre with blood on their hands. John Adams later recounted, "The women took up arms to save their little ones from more misery," a stark testament to their resolve. Adams, as cited in H.E. Maud's In Search of a Home, 1957. This act was not vengeance but survival, a mother's resolve to break the cycle of violence. The massacre left only 4 European men alive, and the women faced a new struggle, rebuilding amid grief. They tended wounds, raised children, and kept the fragile community from collapse. The men sought control, but the women laid the foundation. For survival, their strength forged in a crucible of cruelty. The 1793 massacre was only the beginning of Pitcairn's turbulent saga. The surviving sailors, Fletcher Christian, McCoy, Quintal, and Adams, offered little stability. Christian sank into depression, McCoy ruled as a drunken tyrant, and Quintal's violence ended in his death. By 1800, Adams alone remained, imposing a strict biblical order. Women gained a degree of respect, but their labor sustained the island, farming, weaving, and raising the next generation in isolation. In 1838, Pitcairn made history as the first British territory to grant women voting rights, a milestone noted in colonial dispatches from Governor George Gray. Yet this formal power did little to ease their burdens. The 19th century brought rogue leaders like Joshua Hill, who demanded subservience, and John Tay, who imposed Seventh-day Adventist rules, banning pigs and enforcing rigid norms. Women navigated these upheavals, maintaining households while men squabbled. One woman, Mary Christian, emerged as a quiet leader in the 1850s, organizing food distribution during a drought, her story passed down in family lore. Another, Agnes Warren, stood out in the 1870s. When a shipwreck left Pitcairn short of supplies, Agnes rallied the women to fish and mend nets, ensuring survival until aid arrived, her efforts noted in missionary logs from the period. Their resilience echoed the Tahitian women's grit. In the early 1900s, Elizabeth Young shone as the island's population peaked at 233 in 1937. She ran the only school, teaching children while managing a small clinic, her dual role recorded. In Island Diaries by visitor Beatrice Maunder, 1938. Women like Agnes and Elizabeth were the unsung architects of Pitcairn's survival, their contributions vital yet often overlooked. The 20th century saw Pitcairn's population dwindle as young. People fled to New Zealand and Australia. Women watched their children leave, a silent tragedy that eroded the island's future. By the late 20th century, only 49 residents remained, and women bore the emotional weight of a shrinking community. Their early vote was a symbol, but true. Agency came through enduring these quiet losses, until 2004 brought a new devastating blow. In 2004, Pitcairn faced a crisis that shattered its fragile harmony. 7 men, including Mayor Steve Christian, were convicted of serious crimes against minors, including rape and abuse, following a British investigation documented in the Pitcairn Trials Court Records, 2004. With a population of just 49, the convictions implicated a significant portion of the community, sparking global headlines. The scandal wasn't just a legal matter, it was a profound betrayal, leaving families fractured and trust in tatters. Women were at the heart of this tragedy. Many were mothers or relatives of victims, learning too late of the harm done in their tight-knit community. The absence of external support, no therapists, no crisis centers, meant they had to manage the fallout alone. They comforted daughters, mediated disputes, and faced the world's judgment as media labeled Pitcairn a place of infamy. A 2005 Guardian report quoted one woman, "We held each other up when no one else would," a testament to their resolve. Their efforts weren't about headlines, but about survival, much like their ancestors in 1793. The island's isolation compounded the challenge. With supply boats arriving monthly and no medical facilities, women relied on communal bonds to heal. They organized safe spaces for children and rebuilt routines, but the emotional toll lingered. Their work was a quiet act of defiance against a narrative that sought to define Pitcairn by its worst moments. Brenda, a descendant of Fletcher Christian, is Pitcairn's tourism manager, her warm handshake greeting every visitor to this remote island. At 38, she's the architect of an industry that accounts for 80% of Pitcairn's economy, managing homestays and guiding tours through the island's storied past. But her story is rooted in pain. As a teenager in 2004, Brenda witnessed the scandal that tore her community apart. Her aunt was among those grappling with a victim's trauma, and Brenda herself faced whispers from outsiders who saw Pitcairn as tainted. The urge to flee was strong, but her love for the island and her mother's quiet strength kept her rooted. Brenda's leadership is both practical and profound. She built tourism from scratch, securing a small grant from a New Zealand fund in 2010 to train residents as hosts and promote Pitcairn online. Her strategy turned family homes into cultural hubs, with each homestay offering stories of the bounty and traditional meals. She also navigated financial challenges, bartering with supply ships for discounted rates to keep costs low. Yet her role comes with personal costs. Brenda struggles with the fear that each tourist's visit might be the last, as Pitcairn's population dwindles. "I wonder if I'm enough," she confided to a friend, a rare glimpse into her doubt. When a visitor in 2023 asked about the island's dark past, she replied, "We're more than our mistakes. We're survivors." Her defining moment came in 2024, when a delayed supply ship left Pitcairn with dwindling food. Brenda organized a communal ration system, ensuring every family had enough. She walked door to door, her voice steady, rallying a weary community, a feat that echoed the Tahitian women's resolve in 1793. Convincing skeptics to join her tourism push wasn't easy either. She spent nights persuading elders with tales of economic hope, overcoming their distrust of outsiders. Brenda fights for Pitcairn's future, her strength a beacon in the shadow of tragedy. Pitcairn's women have faced a relentless tide of brutality, from the beatings and betrayals of 1793 to the emotional wreckage of 2004. They've been treated as property, endured unimaginable abuse, and carried the weight of a community's shame. Yet through it all, they've risen. The Tahitian women stopped a massacre, their descendants rebuilt after scandal. Brenda, with her tours and tenacity, carries their legacy forward. Pitcairn isn't a paradise. It's a testament to women who've turned pain into power. How can the resilience of Pitcairn's women inspire us to lift up forgotten communities in our own world? As I reflect on the women of Pitcairn, I'm struck by a quiet awe. Their stories of Tevarua's sacrifice, Mary's steadfastness, Brenda's courage, aren't just history. They're a mirror to our own struggles. These women, against all odds, chose to build rather than break, to heal rather than hate. Their resilience humbles me, reminding me of the countless women in overlooked corners of the world who carry their communities through fire. What moves me most is their refusal to be defined by pain, their stubborn hope that tomorrow can be better. I invite you to pause and think. Who are the unsung heroes in your life? The women who've turned hardship into hope? Share their stories. Amplify their voices, and let's commit to supporting the forgotten communities around us, because, like Pitcairn's women, they deserve to be seen.